The reason you're losing so much money when you're trading options has little to do with the market itself, but honestly, it has more to do with your personal execution. So in today's video, I'm gonna be trying my absolute best to explain options in the most simplest form. I'm gonna show you guys real examples and personal strategies that I use that will hopefully help you guys along your trading journey. So let's get this video to 100 likes and let's get straight to it. So the first chart I have pulled up is ticker symbol SOUN. This is actually a name we've traded multiple times inside the Discord, and I'm talking like 100, 200, 300%, profit runs. And if you don't believe me, I'll show some screenshots up on the screen so then you can see it yourself. But one thing about how I trade swings, just because I'm done with the trade doesn't mean I totally forget about it. I keep it on my watch list, and as soon as it starts, setting up again, I'm right back on the trade. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. If you look back in time on this chart, you'll notice a pattern. You have a strong move up, then a pullback that forms this wedge, and then the breakout. And it's done this multiple times. Like here's one move, and then it resets, and then right here was another wedge. Breakout that led to another run. And now fast forward to where we are today, we're starting to see the same thing develop again. You can see this wedge forming, and then price is like consistently making lower highs. Oh yeah, by the way, this is called compression. And as we know, compression leads to expansions. So I want to explain that for people who don't know what that is. Now here's where people mess up. They see something like this and they immediately go all in, but that's not what I personally do. I don't like personally predicting the breakout. I just like preparing for it. So before I even think about entering contracts, I'm watching a few key things. So for an example, first, I personally want to see price start to tighten up near the apex of this wedge. That personally tells me that sellers are losing control. Second, I'm watching for a shift in momentum. This could be like a strong green candle, increased volume, price starts making higher lows, that type of thing. And for me, I don't need a huge breakout yet. I just need signs that it's getting ready. So now the big question is, what am I actually expecting from this setup? If this wedge plays out like the previous ones, I'm expecting a breakout followed by expansion. If you look at the past moves on this chart, every time we got this type of setup, like I mentioned before, the wedge was tightening, you got the breakout, and then you can see this multi-week move. And that's the key to remember. This is not a one-day trade. This is something that can develop over weeks or even months, depending on momentum. And I notice this is where a lot of beginners get impatient. They start to expect the move to happen instantly, but most of the time the breakout happens first. Now, this is where most people mess up because the setup can be perfect, but if your contract's wrong, you're still gonna lose. So for those who don't understand what I just said, I'm going to try my best to simplify that. Let's just say I think this move can take weeks. I'm personally not buying contracts that expire that same week. That's how you get destroyed by time decay. And instead, I'm looking for contracts that are at least 1 to 2 months out, sometimes even further depending on the setup, because I wanna give the trade room to work. And another thing I notice is a lot of beginners, they go straight for out the money contracts. Those are the cheaper ones that you can buy for 10 cents, 20 cents, that type of thing. But in reality, those contracts need a massive move just to become profitable. So instead, I like staying closer to in the money. You'll see it on a chart here explaining ITM, ATM, and OTM. So as far as matching the contract with the setup, let's just say I'm expecting this to make a gradual move over time. I'm not trading it like a quick scalp. I want contracts that hold value, move consistent with price, and don't decay instantly. So every single thing I do with contracts is based on the setup, the time frame, and the expected move that I have in my head, I guess. Now, before you go and start making these trades, there's one more thing you need to understand, and this is where most people get confused. Even if you're right about the setup, your option can still lose value. And that is something called decay, or AKA the Greeks. And I personally don't see a lot of people talking about the Greeks. They just focus on the technical setup. They focus on, headlines. But like I mentioned before, if you are right about a stock going up and you place calls, but you pick the wrong Greeks for that setup, you're going to lose tons of money regardless. So the simplest one that I can explain for Greeks is time decay, which is theta. So let's just say you buy a call and price just sits there for a few days. You can actually lose money just from time passing. That's why I say all the time in the Discord, you need to give contracts time to run, because if you're too early, decay will eat the mess out of that position. I guess since I explained theta, I might as well get into delta. Delta is basically how much your contract moves when the stock moves. So if the stock goes up, delta tells you pretty much how your option is going to respond. This is why contracts closer to the money move much better. We talked about theta, we talked about delta. I just wanted to give you guys a very short description on each. Of course, there's things like gamma and stuff like that. I actually explained that in my free PDF in the description, so go check that out. But back to the video. For this type of setup, I always want to see a bounce off that trend line. And then after that, that's where I look for long dated contracts. Now, of course, I can't end the video without giving you guys another example. So the next chart I have pulled up here is ticker symbol BABA, which is short for Alibaba. If you look at this chart, you can see the same concept playing out multiple times. Prices moving inside these descending channels, consistently making those lower highs. Then you see these, pullbacks. You guys get the gist. And once that momentum kicks in, you can see what happens next. But not to brag, but these type of setups were giving us 300% plus runs in the Discord. So keep that in mind. This is not like a lousy 15%, 20% moves. These are multi-100% moves. Like for an example, scalpers. They take 10%, they can take 15% on a move. For me personally, that's where I start to trim, but I love to take the move the whole way. Let's just say a stock's at $6, I think it's gonna get to $10. If it gets to $6.50 or $7, depending on the specific contract I chose, that $6.50 is a level where I'll trim, but I would never take out all of my contracts at one level. It's similar to how I tell everyone to scale. If you get into a trade, you don't throw all your shares, all your contracts in one level. And it's the same thing of scaling out. There can be so much more room for that setup to run. So there's no point of just taking all of your profit at one level if you can still make profit along the way. The reason why this works so well is because you're not chasing, you're entering at the shift. You're catching the move early enough, but still waiting for confirmation. And the most important part is this isn't a one-time thing. If you look again, it sets up, breaks out, runs, and then it resets. And then of course it does it again. You don't need 100 different strategies. You just need one setup you understand, and then you execute it over and over again. So when you combine this with what we talked about earlier, scaling, contract selection, patience, this is where options actually start to make sense. This is just a quick video for you guys that are new to options trading. There's so much opportunity that's going to be provided in this market, and I really want you guys to be prepared. It can be very difficult at first when you're learning how to trade options. Trust me, that transition for me with small caps into playing mid to large caps was very difficult, but that's why I'm making these type of videos for you guys to learn all the mistakes that I went through along my journey. And if you're still wanting to learn options and you want a full breakdown on how to approach these setups step by step, I put together an options beginners PDF. That's in the description. If you guys want part 2 of this video, let's get this video to 100 likes, and I'll see you guys in the next video.